I'm alive. Okay, we're going to have a very, very interesting show tonight. Greg Harrison's going to come on and tell us what he knows about these calamari clots in our blood and go from there. This is a new song. It's called Give It Up. It's a bit of jazz, a bit of blues to get us started. And hopefully whoever knows more about it will give it up and tell us what actually it is. But let's start this scene about
I'm gonna give it up, baby. I'm gonna give it up for you. I'm gonna give it up for you. I'm gonna give it up for you, baby. Yeah, that is what I am gonna do. I'm gonna give it up, baby. I'm gonna give it for you. Hey, I'm giving it up, baby. I'm giving it up for you. I'm giving it up, baby. I'm giving it up for you. I'm giving it up for you, baby. Yeah, that is what I am doing. I'm giving it up, baby. I'm giving it for you. I'm giving it up, baby. I'm giving it up for you. Giving it up, baby. I gave it up for you. I'm giving it up for you, baby. Yeah, that is what I've done. I've given it up, baby. I've gave it for you.
Okay, there's some blues to start. Here comes my partner in crime, the first doctor to be suspended for memeing about COVID. He's a terrible
Yes.
man. I don't know why I'm
Yes.
here.
I didn't trust the science spelled with a
Didn't
dollar
trust the
sign.
man. Yeah, that's right.
But having
That's
having
right.
said that,
G'day,
having said
Jed.
that, tonight we actually have a scientist.
Yeah,
We
Yeah.
actually
he does science.
Yeah, I mean all sorts of really, like, you can look at his the peer-reviewed paper. It's science. It's like lasers and Raman
Yeah.
spectroscopy and inductively
and
coupled plasma.
Facts. Remember them facts?
Facts. Yeah. So look, I don't know that these calamari clots that we talked with Richard Hirschman about it. What?
Yep.
3 years ago.
And O'Looney. We've had O'Looney on.
And John O'Looney. And
Yep.
but we have.
G'day,
But
Kerry.
we did get some good insights into what was going on. And I think one of the most important came from our guest, Greg Harrison, who is an Aussie. Aussie, oi, oi, oi. So
That's right.
We actually have Aussie science, which is hard to believe.
We have an outspoken Australian scientist, also known as a unicorn for the rarity of them. So here, let's bring him on and get talking. G'day, Greg.
Hey, Michael. Hey, Paul.
Thanks for
the
coming on,
invitation
man.
tonight.
Sorry about the mirth. It's the only way we stay sane in this insane world that we currently find ourselves marooned in. So, Greg, can I ask you first up, how did you get into looking into these calamari clots or these amyloid clots?
By accident. How it happened was back in 2022, when I happened to be following this right-wing group called Epoch Times, where I used to watch a bit of the Epoch Times videos, and just on one day, a fellow by the name of Mike Adams presented a video where he had analysed white clots delivered to him by the embalmer Richard Hirschman from Alabama, USA. And during the video, I was skeptical that these things existed.
Yeah.
I'd heard a bit about them, and I thought, yeah, right, just another kind of clot. But when Mike Adams put up the ICP-MS analysis that he conducted, it had, now I'll explain, ICP-MS means inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometry, okay? In our little nerdy world, these things are used to determine the elemental content of various substances. And they're very definitive. And Mike put up an analysis that showed an aberrant, and I use the term aberrant deliberately, combination of elements that are normally within a normal red blood clot. When I say aberrant, what I meant was a normal red blood clot will have things like potassium, iron, sodium, calcium, magnesium, zinc, a range of elements that are essential to the biological process of the body and also essential to the formation of the normal red blood clot and the dissolution of the normal red blood clot. But the ICP that Mike put up had very little iron, very little phosphorus, very little iron, very little potassium, very little zinc, very little magnesium, but it had an abundance of phosphorus, an abundance of sulfur, and it also had a higher than normal level of tin. Now, let's put tin aside, because although it was a tin appearance where it was about 4 times the normal amount that appears in a normal red blood clot, tin is not really, in my opinion, taking part in a major role in this pathway. But because I knew tin chemistry, because some of the polymer additives I was making involved tin chemistry, I was intrigued. And more intriguingly was the high level of phosphorus and later on sulfur that we determined was there. So I sent in those days a Twitter message to Richard Hirschman out of the blue, just introducing myself, saying, look, my name's Greg Harrison. I'm an organic chemist. I'm not a biochemist, etc. I'm not medically qualified in any way. However, I do understand ICP-MS because I've used it for 20 years. And in running my additives business, we used a whole suite of analysis techniques, all the way from ICP-MS to ICP-OES to XRF to FTIR to Raman spectroscopy, the whole lot, and HPLC. And I'll talk about all these a bit more individually, because we used to start in our business with a lump of something. In other words, when one of our customers was buying a product that in his polymer system was working better than ours, he would often give us a sample and say, look, this stuff works better than yours. Why? And we'd go away and tear it apart. And when we talk about this stuff, it's normally a complex mixture of chemical substances designed as for polymer additives, okay? So they provide things like UV resistance, impact resistance, processability, and all this kind of stuff. So it's totally devoid from any kind of biological chemistry, but we employ the use of the more sophisticated analysis techniques to determine what's in this lump. And by having that knowledge, we used to use ICP to find out the elemental content. In other words, what elements are there. Once we had run, we found a laboratory, I won't name the country, but in 2 different countries, that ran 2 separate ICP results on the samples that Richard Hirschman kindly sent to us. Both laboratories came back with the same pattern: high phosphorus, high sulfur, and an absence of the normal blood marker element, zinc, iron, potassium, magnesium, etc. So then we said, okay, this is really weird. Why have we got so much phosphorus and sulfur there? We then, because again, I know having done 2 years of my biochemistry in the early days, I knew there was a thing called HPLC, high performance liquid chromatography. And HPLC is actually quite a sophisticated technique that actually superseded a thing called MALDI-TOF. Now, MALDI-TOF was employed by, Professor Arnie Burkhardt, some years ago on the very same white clots that Richard had sent him. And he found, among other proteins, an abundance of fibrinogen, etc. But we did a HPLC analysis of our own. And unfortunately, the university that did perform this work forbade us to ever divulge their identity. And the reason that is that one, they weren't really permitted to use human tissues to do such analysis work. But secondly, we had to quietly, dare I say, misdeclare the samples as being from a non-human entity. Now, 2 weeks later, when the professor who ran the HPLC called us, he said, hey, I've just analysed this mess you've given me, this white clot, and I find an abundance of about 543 proteins. He said, oh, interesting. He said, yes, and they're all human. And we said, is that a fact? Because we had to plead ignorance that we knew where the sample had come from, and more importantly, that it was in fact human. So from there, because I had, long story, a number of colleagues working in Europe that were still working for me at the time, we sent some of Richard's clots to my colleagues in Europe, and they appear on the peer-reviewed paper that Paul was just talking about earlier. And they ran an amino acid analysis, which is amino acids are the building blocks of the proteins that appear in the HPLC. But going back to the HPLC, when we ran the analysis, we found an abnormal abundance of an aberrant ratio of fibrinogen. Now, most people don't know what fibrinogen is. They don't know why it's in the blood, but I'll explain that just briefly, if I may. The human blood of plasma contains hundreds of proteins, not thousands of proteins. So a number of them actually participate in what they call the natural wound healing mechanism. And fibrinogen is the second most abundant soluble protein in plasma besides albumin. Okay, there's a whole lot of other proteins that sit below fibrinogen, but very few of them take part in the wound healing mechanism. In other words, let's talk about the wound healing mechanism. When you damage an organ in the body, it's normally the endothelial lining that is damaged first. And the fibrinogen in the bloodstream is soluble. So it's circulating around the body. I think there's about 4% of fibrinogen in all our blood, roughly. The liver produces it, particularly through the night. But more importantly, the moment it encounters the damaged area, it begins to lose solubility and to form fibrils. And this is what we call the wound healing mechanism. So that's in the naturally formed fibrils, of course. It covers the wound, stops the bleeding. And then later on, using thrombin and thrombospondin and plasminogen, the body then dissolves that naturally formed, properly folded, and I use the term folded deliberately, fibrinogen in a defined ratio, 1 to 1 to 1. There are different monomers in fibrinogen, and they then dissolve the clot. And that's how the natural wound healing mechanism works. However, our analysis, our HPLC analysis, did not find a 1 to 1 to 1 fibrinogen monomer ratio. It found a 9 to 4 to 1. And in a normal red blood clot, the ratio of what they call fibrinogen, alpha chain, beta chain, and gamma chain is approximately 1 to 1 to 1. In the embalmer's white clots, our analysis showed 9 parts of the beta chain, 4 parts of the gamma chain, and 1 part of the alpha chain. This is highly unusual, and frankly, we don't think it's been seen before.
Wow.
On top of that, there are a number of what they call cell adhesive molecule or proteins identified directly behind the fibrinogen that we found. And those cell adhesive molecules were things like fibronectin, vitronectin, what they call it, can't get the last one, but the whole lot of them actually are cell adhesive molecules, but they were all in the same white clot. And surprisingly, and Paul would understand the significance of this, we found a very unusually high level of actin. Actin can only come from essentially the cytoplasmic form that we found from the damaged muscle layer behind the endothelial lining of which where the clot is forming. And that's telling us there is massive damage going on just behind the endothelial lining of the vascular system. Okay. This started to prompt us, after we found such a high level of phosphorus, to investigate what these things do in combination. And the first thing that popped up was protein misfolding. All of these analysis indicators to us were pointing to a misfolding protein content. Now, when you start to research misfolding protein, straight up comes amyloid, straight up comes Alzheimer's disease, Lewy bodies,
mad cow.
Yep, all these things. But more importantly, up also comes a test called thioflavin T for testing the presence of what they call beta sheet structures that essentially signify the presence of amyloid or misfolded protein. So as a shot in the dark, Richard Hirschman drove 3 hours north to Birmingham to a pathology lab there, which I won't name because he doesn't want to be named either. And he performed the first thioflavin T UV experiments where they took a sample of the white clot, put a couple of drops of very dilute solution of thioflavin T, pressed it under a quartz slide. You don't use glass because it stops the UV. Anyway, it glowed brilliantly green. This is what I was going to show you on the presentation that sadly I can't put up. Now, when we saw that brilliant green, the pathologist who immediately, without any further analysis, said, "It's amyloid." We said, "Hang on, no. Be careful. Thioflavin T can give false positives. It can fluoresce in the presence of other proteins." So having then established it looks like there may be a beta sheet, what we call a beta sheet structure there, we then went on to do further analyses. And one was the amino acid analysis that pointed to a very high, the most abundant amino acid that we found in the embalmer's white clots was a protein called amino acid called protein. Proline. Get it right, Greg. Proline. Okay. Now, proline is a kinker. In other words, when proline engages another amino acid, it'll kink and begin to, we think, help initiate the misfolding process. Secondly, when SARS-CoV-2 spike was introduced into the mRNA technology, mRNA locked the spike open with 2 proline inserts. That's a coincidence. I'm not saying they're related. It's just funny that the most abundant amino acid we found in the embalmer's white clots is in fact proline at about 21%. And again, the appearance of the amino acids, second most abundant amino acid behind the proline was aspartic acid. Now, in a normal red blood clot, these things occur at minimal concentrations. And I'm talking 2, 3, maybe 4% maximum. Here, we're talking 20% and 12%. So there's something wrong, again, with the white clots, but the presence of proline being such an active kinker is like phosphorylation, pointing to misfolded proteins. It's a shame I can try share my screen because I have a video. I want to just digress for a moment to the work that Dr. Kevin McCann has done. Now, Dr. Kevin McCann is a brilliant neuroscientist based in Japan. And it was Dr. Kevin McCann that actually first employed, take a step back. Before Dr. McCann did his analysis on the embalmer's clots, Richard and I both reached out to Dr. McCann, again, now by X, not by Twitter. And we contacted him and said, look, we've got embalmer's clots that are fluorescing brightly under thioflavin T. Kevin kindly agreed to take samples from Richard. Richard sent him 2 lots. One lot was 4, and the next lot was 12. So he's got quite a few samples over there. And a couple of weeks later, he came back and said, these look to be amyloid. To the point, Kevin did do a video, and he was the very first one, to our knowledge, that ran Raman, R-A-M-A-N spectroscopy on the embalmer's clots to definitively look for an amyloid signal. Now, we've got to be careful here, because just because you find what we call the amide shifts that are present, that doesn't mean it's fully formed amyloid, okay? And there's an argument going on about the conclusion we've drawn in our paper, where we're saying it is not fully formed canonical amyloid. It's stopping short. And we can explain why, by the way, by the sulfur and the phosphorus present and a few other things. But the point we're making is this is a new form of what we call amyloid precursor proteins. They're oligomers. They've progressed to probably, I'd say, roughly 70 or 80% of a fully formed beta sheet, but they don't quite get there. And our spectrometry results via Raman show this very clearly. But we're being misquoted by others saying, oh, no, it doesn't reach to 1700 centimetre minus 1 point, so therefore it's not amyloid. And the point we're trying to make is, and there are 3 papers I found, all describing the amyloid precursor proteins that begin to misfold but never quite reach the fully formed beta sheet that people class as canonical, or should I say classical amyloid. Now, I hope I'm not being too technical here, guys, but this is the complexity of what we're dealing with. And our paper reflects the deeper depth that we went to after Kevin McCann ran his first Raman spectroscopy and did a video, which I was really hoping to show you, where he clearly exclaims the embalmer's clots as being amyloid. I'm just wondering, I'll try an experiment and see whether
you have a share screen function. You can
Yep,
do that if you want to do that. It's saying hit the TV with the cross, and then the first one up is share screen. It's interesting, 6 years ago, we'd be sitting here going, what? What? You would have lost me at hello. 6
Oh,
years in now, suddenly I'm going misfolded. Yeah, man. If it's misfolded, it's bad. I know that. And it's and we are keeping up. Well, I am. I mean, Paul's with you, but I'd suspect a lot of people are keeping up. And this is where we're at. So yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, this is
I think
exactly
we've
what
leveled up the population over the last 5 years, especially the skeptical community. They've learned all sorts of things that you would have never guessed.
Oh,
Oh,
what'd you say?
all sorts of things we could have never guessed.
When,
When
between us.
hopefully Greg will reappear in a minute. So he was saying before we started that look, I'm not a.
Oh, look at this comment.
I'm not a. It's
You haven't
amyloid.
really Jim, but not if you know it.
Exactly, Ben. There appears to be a spectrum. There appears to be a spectrum, which is a question I have for Greg. But proline, no, it is proline. Proline is a yogurt.
That's the comment of the night so far, Ben. I can see him here. He's not connected. I'll kick him out again and just cross your fingers that we get to see the second part of this.
So he said, Michael, look, I'm not a biochemist. I'm a chemist, as in like a polymer chemist in particular. And I said, look, that's exactly what we appear to need here to understand what was going on. When he talks about these ratios, like the fibrinogen monomers, if this was just ordinary post-mortem or ante-mortem clot, you expect to see the building blocks of these clot building blocks be in a ratio, and it's sort of bizarre. It was sort of bizarre that these ratios and the mass spectrometry that he was talking about. Once you can identify what are the elements within this piece of tissue, does it have potassium? Does it have magnesium? Does it have iron? And it was a totally different way of approaching the problem, but I think it was the correct one, or at least a very important one that wouldn't have come up if you'd been thinking about it in the standard micro biochemistries or type of framework. So we were very lucky. We were very lucky that we had Greg to make sense of what was being seen on the mass spectrometry. That's the ICP MS.
I don't know, Greg, if you can listen. He's down here. It says you have to connect your microphone before we can add you to the stream. So maybe if you can hear us, I'll give you a call if you can't. But I'll get you to.
Oh, there we go. Hold on.
Oh, here he is.
Okay.
There we go.
I hope you didn't.
Everyone at home's going, ASIO, ASIO.
No, it's not that. It's my computer literacy. I'm not a computer nerd.
It's far more exciting when we say ASIO.
But the problem we have is I'm trying to flick through to get to the video, which is pretty important, that I could play for your audience, with Kevin McCann exclaiming the fact that the white clots that he got from Richard Hirschman are indeed amyloid. Okay. And he is, and we have to give him total credit, not only for the research he did then confirming it's amyloid, but more importantly, for the work he's done with the apheresis blood filtering technique he's using in Japan now. He's got over 50 successfully treated people. And we fully understand that the removal of the amyloid microclots that he is removing, he is stopping or preventing the continuation of what we call the mass polymerization of an agglomeration or accretion, as Rita Pretorius from South Africa describes, of the amyloid microclots to the embalmer's macroclots. Now, it's, again, pity, Michael, I can't show you the presentation I've got where I can show you a beautiful screenshot of the agglomeration of the microclots against an amyloid, what we call a fibril, or should I say fibrinoid structure. And you can see them all literally coalescing. But
I
the reason
was going to ask that is you said people expect to see a canonical B-depleted sheet, and if it's not exactly that, then it's and you're describing a spectrum, and I think there's a spectrum, isn't there, from like alpha helix.
That's correct. There's alpha helix structures there,
all the way to the B-depleted sheet structures, and
what it's doing, and again, I wish I could put up my spectrum. Maybe I'll try again in a minute. But
Sure.
What I wanted to show you was a progression that we picked up by Raymond, where we've got amide shift 1 and amide shift 3 very, very clearly in two samples that were analysed separately. We've got different intensities of the peak, or should I say the peak amplitudes are higher for one than the other, but they're both there. And that's telling us the fact that both amide shifts are there. It's moving towards amyloid. But the spectroscopy, spectroscopy scan stops at about 1680, 1690. It doesn't quite go to 1700, which is the classical canonical definition of amyloid. And we have the problem that although there are papers, peer-reviewed papers, written and published describing how this can be truncated and stopped and progressed only to, say, 3/4 or so to full amyloid, you've got the medical fraternity saying, oh, it's not full amyloid. Well, I'm sorry, gentlemen, but if it's fluorescing, it's causing the thioflavin T to fluoresce, and we're seeing signs of Congo red fluorescing, it's progressing to fully formed amyloid. Okay. Now we've done this work, and I can show you the thioflavin T testing too. I can show you some of the Congo red stuff we've done. But the point is, it's not fully formed amyloid, and it's heavily cross-linked with both phosphorus and sulfur that prevents the body from breaking down these embalmer-type white clots. Okay, so we do think we have found a new blood-borne, dare I say, systemic amyloidosis. Now, that's one hell of a statement to make, because in the next question that follows is what's driving it?
Yeah.
And this is where it gets a little upsetting when we talk about. We also
it is upsetting.
Sorry, Michael. Fire again.
I asked this question of you over the phone. It is upsetting.
Yeah, we've got to do more work on this, and we don't have the proteomics in place to do this properly. But we picked up in the Raymond spectroscopy we've done a signature peak, supposedly according to two peer-reviewed papers we have, of spike protein present in the amyloid light clot. Now, just because the 1383 peak is there in both of them, in different, again, amplitudes, doesn't mean it's spike. We have to be very careful on that, but what it's indicating is it could be spike. And we know that Dr. Ryan Cole did perform a dibenzidine histology staining of the same white clots that Richard gave him, it turns brown if there's spike present. And he found it was all salt and peppered all over the sample he got. Dr. Arnie Burkhardt also did Congo red staining on a whole range of tissues taken from all over the body, not just clots, but certainly of heart and lung and what have you. And he was able to show the Congo red fluorescing. So seems to be the problem is the medical fraternity either don't want to embrace or don't understand the significance of finding all these markers pointing towards the presence of an amyloidic. And I won't say it's amyloid, and I won't say it's we think it could be the 37th type of amyloid. There's normally 36 types of amyloid that have been identified. We think this being blood-borne and not tissue-borne could be a 37th. And let's go back to that statement too, if I may, Michael. The reason I say the 37th type is that the 36 types of known amyloid, including tau tangles and Lewy bodies and all this stuff, and the alpha-synuclein and all the different types, are tissue-borne. From what we can determine, this is blood-borne, driven by the misfolding of the high abundance of fibrinogen in the bloodstream. And we don't think that anyone other than Risa Pretorius, and dare I say Dr. McCann, who certainly is aware of this, has woken up to the fact that we have a misfolded fibrinogen basis for these amyloidic clots. And I'll take my hat off to Risa Pretorius and Dr. Kell in Stellenbosch University, South Australia, because they were the very first ones to identify the fibrinoid, as they call them initially, which is like a fibrin amyloid combination of microscopic clots in ischemic stroke victims. Now, they wrote 3 papers on it. And then the third paper, they did describe it as being amyloid because they did the thioflavin T testing we did. They did further proteomics that we don't have access to. And they are quite adamant that these clots are amyloidic microclots. We are adamant, based on our analysis, is the accretion and aggregation of the amyloid microclots written up in the peer-reviewed documents that Dr. McCann is removing via the filtration process he's using, that's eventually ending up as the embalmer's clots. So I'll quieten down for a while now. Please ask questions, gentlemen.
One of the reasons to have you on is I interviewed Wendy Daniel the other night, who's a prominent anti-vaxxer, has never taken the vaccine or any vaccines I know of. Yeah. And she has had one removed from her veins in New Zealand. And the guy in New Zealand who did that had an hour-long conversation with me on the phone. He doesn't want to go live yet. Yeah. But he was telling me how they did that. And that he was saying that it actually formed once it got outside of the body. They took blood and then they went through a process. Have you heard of that?
It forms in the plasma. You've got to remember, because fibrinogen is soluble, freely soluble, it circulates in the body, in the lymph system as well. Whereas the blood cells don't get into the lymph system because of the barrier that's prevents them because of their sheer size. But a true solution in which fibrinogen forms does end up in the lymph system. Now, we've got photographs from Dr. Matt Shelton out of New Zealand that was performing an oncogenic procedure and draining fluids from the lymph system. And one of his tubes filled up with a white clot. And I've got that photo. I could pull that up and show you. But more importantly, the phenomenon that Wendy Daniel has reported is real. In fact, I met with Wendy Daniel last week, and I obtained from her a sample of her white clot. She cut it up for me, and I actually have it here somewhere. Yeah, there it is. Wendy gave me that sample, and that's going off to my lab in, my colleagues in Europe to be analysed by Raymond. And we're going to run 2 tests. We'll run thioflavin T testing to check that, see if there's some degree of fluorescence. We've got a totally open mind on this, because Wendy's clot occurred in her plasma sample after centrifuging of her blood. It took 30 to 40 minutes to form. But I was present when Wendy pulled it out of the tube and she cut it to provide me the sample. And it is rubbery. It is like calamari. And I'd like to go back to John O'Looney's original description of the calamari class, because John O'Looney pretty much called it with regard to the rubbery texture. And Richard Hirschman also agrees, and Laura Jeffries from Canada agrees, and Brenton Faithful out of New Zealand all agree these things are rubbery. And I saw it with my own eyes. So I've got a sample here. It's going off to a lab in Europe. I won't name it. It's same lab that's in our paper. And they will run against the 2 standards that we ran from Richard's white clots, a comparative Raman spectroscopy. Now, once that work is completed, We're then sending it to the university, I won't name it, but it's in our paper, to have the thioflavin T test repeated with it. Now, being formed in the plasma, and the fact, and I'll state it now, Wendy is unvaccinated, we're skeptical that it's going to be as amyloidogenic or amyloidic as what we saw with Richard's clots. But the jury is out, and let these two results tell us what we see. If we don't get fluorescence and we don't get a amide 1 or amide 3, or preferably both, occurring in the spectrum we run on Wendy's clots, then it's not amyloidic, okay? Well, sorry, not by our definition anyway, a narrow definition. Having said that, it could still be a precursor stage, depending on what we pick up. So the next couple of weeks are going to be very interesting. I'd also like to alert you that Paul, you did mention in the paper that we have published and got it successfully published. And I was telling you, gentlemen, just prior to before we came on air, that we had to publish it in a lower tier journal because we approached two high tier journals. I won't name them. Yes, I will. One was the American Medical Association journal, should I say, American Medical Journal. Neither of them would accept our abstract. So we had to go down the track of getting a lower tier journal that would actually publish it, even though it's there's two separate laboratories specified and the lab reports are provided. One's a well-recognised university. The other two wouldn't publish the paper. So we're doing another paper, and the paper we're about to do is an even deeper, higher resolution look at the anisotropic structure. Now, I talk about isotropic structure and isotropic structure as being the crystalline structure of these white clots, because we believe they're highly, dare I say, crystalline in their structure. But more importantly, if the so-called signature spike of 1383 is there, this highly refined technique will pick it up quite clearly. And it'll measure the area under the curve and tell you the difference we think in approximate combination of concentration, if it's significant, of the spike protein in the two clots. So this is going to be an interesting experiment. And we'll write a paper on that too. And Paul, I tell you now, we'll have the same difficulty as we had before. No one wants to touch it. And I'm going to drop John Campbell in it right now too. Dr. John Campbell has an email from Richard Hirschman, Thomas Haviland, myself, John O'Looney, okay, all sending him the very same link of my peer-reviewed paper that Paul referenced, crickets. He's on all kinds of other things, and yes, he talks about he can't talk about certain things. He's too worried about, I might lose my YouTube rating. I'll be downgraded. Well, you may be downgraded, Dr. Campbell, but please understand, this is peer-reviewed science now. It's in the literature. Please understand what we're trying to tell you. And if we're right, and God, I pray we're not right, that this is something we've never seen before and needs to be recognised. Because the frightening part now, gentlemen, is that Richard Hirschman, as late as 2 days ago, the last time I spoke to him, is confirming he's still seeing them in 40 to 50% of the bodies he's embalming. Laura Jeffries in Canada, who I spoke to last week, and she'll tell you, carte blanche, that she's even 80% of the bodies coming out of Canada. John O'Looney thinks it's about 30 to 40%. And the last time I spoke to Brenton Faithful, which is a while ago now, he was saying about 30 to 40% too. So the prevalence is not decreasing. It bounces around. Some weeks I don't see any, which is great. They think they have a normal week. Other weeks, they'll see 2 out of 4, 3 out of 4. And on the odd occasion, Richard will ring up and say, guess what? I had 4 out of 4 today. So all we're doing is pleading with the authorities, take a sample, approach one of these embalmers, get a sample of it, and do the proper testing on it. By all means, replicate what we've done. Prove us wrong. I hope you can.
We want to be wrong.
Yeah, prove us wrong.
We won't be wrong. Before we move on, can I just, we've got a presentation to go, but there's some questions mounting up here in the audience. Do you mind if we just race through them? There's only a few. Okay. The first one is Robert Roach. It's not really to do with this. I'll just get Dr. Paul to answer this quickly. Can you explain what it means by the raw data on the miscarriages in the Pfizer trial? I've read 12 pages of the post-marketing report on miscarriage, but don't know what the raw data means.
Yeah, Robert. This has been very topical recently. I recommend you go to Archmedic Substack. He on there. There's been a very deep dive into the miscarriage numbers, and look, it's very hard to determine. There was a bit of a scamminess that the Shimbakura where they were using numbers from the second and third trimester. It's a bit like saying the child's 12 years old, they didn't get a miscarriage. It's too late. But it's very hard to get data in the first trimester because often people don't know exactly when they've gone pregnant. Even the most thorough, there is at least a doubling of miscarriages. So there's no question in my mind that there's a problem there. The question is how bad is it, and in particular, how bad is it in the first trimester? And I'm not sure that the 80% figure will hold up. But if it's even just a doubling, and you've given it to millions of pregnant women, it's a tragedy. So. That's just a brief point on that. Greg, about the spike, you mentioned spike protein.
I've just got a few more questions, just a few more, because I think it's going to be quite heavy, and we'll just race through these. So, if a vaccine-injured person has glands under the armpit that keep swelling up and down, are you saying the amyloid could be there? Was that too big a thing to do?
Look, the vaccine was associated with glands, being quite large, and but it's probably too early for amyloid to develop. What do you think, Greg? It seems to take some time.
Michael, with all due respect, I stay away from these kinds of questions because way outside of your expertise.
But I'm obligated to put them
from
up.
a theoretical perspective, if Wendy Daniels' clot even shows a slighter signature of misfolded fibrinogen, what we think may be there, has caused a rubbiness of her clot, and that's tracked back to being amyloid, then you've got to look at the fact it's occurred in the plasma. And the plasma, as we said, and according to the photos I've got from Dr. Matt Shelton in New Zealand, we're seeing the deposition of white clots clogging up, literally, the drain tubes that they're draining the lymphatic fluid out with. Now,
Richard
tells
told us
me
about that.
There may be a very low concentration occurring in the glands, but we don't know, and it's way outside anything we could possibly do research-wise. I prefer not to comment other than to say it's possible.
Tad Askew, we'll come back to your question too about the green laser. We'll come back to that later after the show. And Low Me Down, where's he gone? Dr. Dan was here for a bit, telling us we shouldn't trust Kevin McCann. And we don't trust Kevin McCann. We trust Fauci. We trust Fauci.
Good luck. That's a British.
Yeah, I thought, Greg, seeing you're a scientist, you would probably have to plead the Fifth Amendment 111 times. But I remember, I think it was.
That's it, guys. Move on. Please proceed.
Over 3 years ago when we had Richard Hirschman on, and we were talking about protein misfolding, and I think we were questioning whether the spike protein could be a form of like a nidus. It's not the word I'm looking for. A focus point on which the misfoldings and it can propagate it from it. It's like a seed, is what I'm saying.
I can explain that. And again, I'll take a step back if I may, because I've been following this before I even met Richard Hirschman and got involved and saw the Epoch Times video. I was actually contributing to Drastic. I don't know who Drastic are, but Charles Rixey, myself, the Seeker, a whole lot of others were communicating about the origin of the virus. And we started studying the spike and the difference of the spike that appears on the SARS-CoV-2 virus relative to MERS and SARS-1 and what they call the Sarbeco coronaviruses that actually form the backbone of SARS-CoV-2. And the spike is so different to any of the spikes that appear in a normal coronavirus, okay? And how is different is it's far more amyloidogenic. And there's a couple of papers by Sophie Nystrom and Hammerstrom, two scientists, I think they're Swedish scientists, if I recall, published in 21, 22, that show the spike protein from the natural virus. It doesn't say the mRNA. It just says from the natural virus possesses amyloidic Waltz sequences, WALTZ sequences. And they split it up. They did this very, very well to the point the paper's been published, and I've read them a couple of times. They've done a couple of follow-up papers too, delving deeper into the specific differences in the sequences that occur around the furin insert of the spike. Now, let's talk a little bit about the furin insert, shall we? And how novel that is in a coronavirus and how it doesn't exist in any other coronavirus, by the way, but just happens to turn up. So many coincidences turn up in SARS-CoV-2
Extraordinary coincidence.
Having said that, Paul,
It's a loves coincidences.
It's a close proximity of spike 689, spike 600 to the furin insert on the spike structure that ensures at the time of infection, at the cleavage of the S1, S2 segment, at that time you are simultaneously exposed to two highly amyloidogenic sequences. You can't get infected without the exposure to the amyloidogenic sequences. And secondly, let's talk a little more now about the open conformation, locked conformation of the mRNA spike. When you lock the spike in an open conformation with the furin insert, where my thumbs are, either side of that and different is the spike 600 and 689. When it's locked in open conformation, courtesy of the two proline inserts, that means that those amyloidic segments are far more accessible to soluble fibrinogen in the bloodstream. The spike protein has somewhere between 25 and 50 phosphorylation sites that actually begin and help the spike protein itself to misfold. Now, all this is in peer-reviewed literature. I can bore you guys for ages.
Not boring at all.
I was listening. Dr. Kevin McCann was talking about that paper by Hammerstrom, and the S1 subunit has these amyloidogenic domains. What is scary to me? What's scary to me is back in 2021, I saw a paper by Bart Klassen, who was concerned that the mRNA could have prion-like features. And I remember posting it in 2021. And of course, straight away, the account got locked. No one got to see the post. And you know, that becomes a bit of a superpower because you think, okay, that's interesting. They don't want you to talk about prions. What's fascinating and terrifying about the discussion of amyloid is that you can also get amyloid seeding. This idea that you can produce amyloid in different tissues. And Kevin's work with the RT Quick.
Yes. I was just going to raise Kevin's work on RT Quick.
The RT Quick and how that's terrifying that you put in something with a bit of spike, and then you get human prion protein going from the non-scrapey to the scrapey form.
Can I just jump in for a moment, Paul? Yeah. Because I'm quite familiar with the RT Quick real-time quaking-induced conversion technique that Kevin used in the cell wells he's got, and what they call the progression time to start to show the appearance of a prionic appearance. Now, we've got to be very careful here. There's no evidence that I think Kevin McCann or ourselves can produce so far that suggests this is prionic, okay? It's likely to be amyloid prionic type in the sense that other proteins that come into contact with the amyloid microclots do begin to misfold. That's part of the agglomeration accretion process. Now, Kevin McCann did actually prove that rather conclusively. It was a Sunday afternoon with my wife and I when I got a phone call from Kevin, some weeks after Richard Hirschman had sent Kevin the second set of samples he got. And he said, "Greg, I need to talk to you now." And in those days, Kevin and I were relatively open. These days, we don't talk much because we've had some differences of opinion. But the thing he told me was he was worried about the well-time increase in the RT Quick, where he got a sizable signal within 7 hours. And normally it takes 15 to 24 hours to develop the same type of peak. So anyway, all great, should I say. So that opened his eyes a lot to it being amyloid prionic. And the reason we draw the distinction is it appears to be, yes, it's happening around the body via the spike protein and the carriage of the lipid nanoparticles that ensure the mRNA spike generation in a whole range of organs. Thank you, lipid nanoparticles. But more importantly, it's telling you that it seems to be occurring only in the bloodstream and being proliferated. That doesn't mean there's any proof it's a mad cow disease or Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease type phenomenon.
No, but what I was saying that I was worried about, I know I conflated it because I started off with my story of Bart Klassen in his paper, but just the idea that amyloid can cause a type of infectious folding. It's not prion disease, but it's
similar. It's similar. That's why they call it amyloid prionic, because it's causing other proteins that come into contact with it to begin to misfold. And that's the scary part.
The cross-seeding, I think it's called, amyloid cross-seeding. It's not strictly, Michael, like a prion, but it's got real similarities enough. And when I read that paper in 2021, it scared the shit out of me. And the fact that it was censored didn't help. And the fact that we haven't got big institutions double checking all your work and taking it further and doing the proteomics and all the advanced stuff that we need to fully understand this, because I think it's pretty clear that what we've said for a while now, a couple of years, that we've got this new blood-borne form of amyloid disease, plasma-borne. It's a new class of disease, and no one, except just a few of us, florid cookers, actually, and even fewer who actually have access to the equipment and the expertise to investigate it.
Yeah. I'd just like to pick up on that, if I may, Paul. That's exactly right. I mean, you've got to remember, we've started working backwards. In other words, we got sent samples of white clots because I used to analyze competitive products. So first thing you think about, what are you going to do? Okay, fine. Identify the elements, work backwards. Now, we've only used, dare I say, schoolboy techniques. I mean, this is not rocket science what we're doing. And I'm a bucket chemist. I'm only an organic chemist. I'm not, as I said, medically qualified or a biochemist. I know enough a bit about biochemistry to ask silly questions. But the point I'm making is we're using really crude stuff to do pretty simple evaluation. Even the Raman spectroscopy is simple to do. When I say it's it's expensive bit of kit to run it on, and more importantly, they are highly sophisticated instruments that require a spectroscopist to fully determine what the spectra is telling them. But these guys do it day in, day out, and they do it for industry. And as I said, a whole range of other people looking to understand what it is this contaminants, or we've got a strange lump of something that it is. The point is the CDC, the TGA, and others have easily far more sophisticated equipment and far more likely to be able to fully characterize what we're describing here. But none of them, to our knowledge so far, have taken any interest in the reports. And more importantly, it's not hard to get. I know for a fact Tom Haviland has sent, this is Major Tom Haviland, who's conducted the embalmer surveys around the world. He has sent actual samples provided by Richard Hirschman to the CDC. And I'll tell you another thing, and I've got to be careful here too. Some months ago, Richard Hirschman embalmed the body of the father of a CDC representative. Just by coincidence, Richard Hirschman happened to be in the mortuary performing an embalming. The CDC representative, who we do know, but we won't name him because he doesn't want to be named, came in, and just by coincidence, Richard Hirschman was there, and the CDC guy asked the funeral home, who's going to do the embalming? And he said, why? He said, I just want to see if there's any white clots in my father. And because I'm not, you can get Richard back on. He'll verify this.
Wow. Yeah, I would. Yeah, he's just traveling at the moment, so he'll
verify this, and he'll say, "Look, what happened was I got called into the mortuary section, and he said, I want you to tell me if you find any white clots." And we said, "Yeah, okay." So the guy went and sat outside for about 2 hours, I believe, while Richard did the procedure. He identified 2 samples of white clots, and he then gave the identification to the CDC guy of his father. In other words, he got the toe tag and the whole lot, and he gave him the clots. And we've heard crickets since. Now, I know I shouldn't be probably talking about this now, but this is the level it's going to. Unless we start to break this down and get the message out there that's being subverted, then it's going to continue. And this is a classic case where the CDC has got samples. A guy has been personally affected and doesn't have the guts, or is too frightened, or stood over, or whatever, to explain.
Yeah, that reminds me, Greg, of Dr. Hobart. Before he was suspended, he was approached by one of the head people of APRA because they'd had a vaccine injury and they wanted a prescription of ivermectin. We got a recording of him saying that twice. But you know what you remind me of? I know you're saying I'm not a chemist, I'm not this. This reminds me of Soylent Green. You've seen the film, of course, Soylent Green with Charlton Heston. Now, in Charlton Heston, in it, has a friend who works with him, and it's played by Edward G. Robinson. It was his last film, and he gets given the books of where Soylent Green is, the reports from the ocean that Charlton Heston gets from a murder victim, and takes it to this other group of amateur scientists that are hidden away in society. This is where the greatest research is being done now, not only on this, but other things with Dr. Nixon and all. This is how it's been done. And everyone say, oh, they don't have the accolades. If they had the accolades, they wouldn't be on Cafe Lockdown talking because they know they're
Oh, that's not true. We had Peter McCullough on. He's got accolades.
Oh, Peter's a different thing. But if they're in Australia, I mean, every time we have a doctor on, APRA gets the entire transcript transcribed. In fact, I believe that's copyright, Upra. I believe that's copyright, to be honest. And but this is how we are. So you're actually doing great work, mate. And you don't. I don't usually shut up this long, but you've certainly got me fascinated.
Oh,
So
thanks.
please
But
continue. And we've got the
please remember,
presentation to
I'm
go
just
through
one of the
too.
team. We've got a pretty small team. I've got two colleagues who I can't name in Europe because I've got access to universities and
Exactly.
institutes. Yeah.
There's my point.
And this is a sad part. We can't name them because they don't want to be named, for one. Secondly, it'll compromise. One of them's doing a PhD in protein chemistry.
Yeah.
And to lose the access to the labs, we've had to go outside our capabilities to find labs that'll do this work. And then when we do find labs, like we found earlier on, they just, you can't tell us what you can't say we've analysed what Obama's white clots. I mean, this is what we're facing. And then you get criticised, you haven't published your data. Well, I want your data. Well, I can't give you the data because one, it's written in another language for starters, which is a dead giveaway, And secondly, because you can't furnish the data to confirm our findings, you get pilloried on X and others saying, you're full of BS and really don't want, you're only talking through your hat. Well, we are to a degree because we're not properly qualified. This is our whole point. We're not PhDs. Well, one of us, sorry, two of my three are not PhD, one is. But having said that, we're not anywhere near the eminence of Dr. Rita Pretorius, for example, Dr. Kevin McCann. Everyone with a doctor in front of their name is at a far higher academic level than what we are. Okay. However, in the industrial world, we do use the same toys. We all use the same types of equipment, and we have to interpret what the equipment is telling us. And we use a whole range of analytical techniques, and you do become familiar with it. And that's all we've done is simply apply commercially available high, and I call it, HPLC is high end when it comes to sophistication of what it's going to tell you. And we understand how to interpret those. But that's as far as we go. We don't step outside what our data is telling us. But one thing I assure you, we are continuing this now that I have Wendy Daniels' clot. I think the next paper we write will be very interesting, assuming we can get it published. If I may just finish up tonight as well on X, Dr. Philip McMillan did a great video talking about how a pharmaceutical company had tried to develop a treatment for heart disease. And they spent 4 years with all the research and what they did. And they were targeting the interleukin-6 cytokine pathway, not realizing this has got nothing to do with, the interleukin-6 cytokine pathway is only a minimal part of what's going on here. It's only the very early part. But once this thing starts to become misfolded, amyloid, and driven by other things, those treatments they're spending millions of dollars on aren't going to work. And Dr. McMillan, to his great credit, did do an interview with Richard about our paper. He did do an interview with Tom Haviland about his paper, which was published at the same time. But Dr. McMillan tonight exemplified clearly what is happening in the real world, but now it's starting to bite them. They're spending millions chasing the wrong mechanism. They're chasing the natural interruption, if you like, of the wound healing mechanism and also the cytokine storm impacts, etc., the body normally deals with. And they're either ignoring or oblivious to the amyloidogenic nature of the spike. I'll leave it there if I guys.
They're missing the point. Earlier, you talked about the fibrinogen monomers and how the 9:4 to 1 ratio, which is not how it is in nature and in normal clots. You had an explanation for that, didn't you? Based on
yes, yeah. In the literature again, the ratio when you form a normal or properly formed fibril by fibrinogen properly I'll use the term polymerizing. It's the three monomers polymerize in a structure. It's a bit like lock and key. In other words, the body because our structures form naturally in the right ratios, is not misfolded, the body can dissolve it, okay, via the thrombin, plasminogen pathways, etc. The problem, what we found in our HPLC analysis, is shown, Michael, it might be in that presentation if you want to try and pull it up. I think I might have put in that presentation. We can show you what we found.
Tell me when you're ready.
Yeah, have a look at it. Just flick down. That's the first one where we did the ICP. Keep going down, if I may. Just keep going down. Keep going. Keep going. It's the ICP.
So that's them. This is what we're talking about. These are the things, and these form once they're outside the body. This is what.
Well, they're forming in the plasma. When you say outside the body, they seem to be forming in plasma. That's correct. But these were formed inside the body. These were removed by Richards. So.
Yeah, Michael, some of them have this sort of layering aspect that they find in them, which doesn't happen outside the body and post-mortem. So there are some, they are starting to find some of these in live patients, and they are.
I've seen one taken out.
Post-mortem, post-mortem.
They're putting it out of cadavers, so you've got to. You don't want to.
I've seen one taken out of a live body in a neck operation. We used to play that for a bit. They cut the neck. Yeah.
Keep flicking down, please. Just keep going. Keep going, please. Keep going. We'll come back to some of these slides later. Keep going. It's a table that'll come up shortly, I hope. Keep going. Here we go. Next one. There it is. Okay. If you focus in on this, Paul, this is what we found now. Remember I said to you the HPLC revealed 543 proteins in total. These are the top 21 proteins by concentration. So we had to manipulate the counts and the data we got. And I'll give credit where it's due. This is Dr. Bruce Brapley's work out of New Zealand. Bruce and I were working together in the early days. We actually worked together on this, and it was Bruce that initiated the analysis, or able to get the analysis done by the HPLC. And this is the table that he generated based on the counts he got. And you'll notice here you've got 35% of the beta chain, and you've got 16% of the alpha chain, the gamma chain, then you've got 4% of the alpha chain. Now, this is highly disordered. And the reason it is in the literature, and I've got the paper, it describes that the beta chain begins to form longitudinally. It's the very first monomer that begins to polymerize in a natural fibril first, preferentially. But it's then followed in an ordered manner by the alpha chain and the gamma chain. It's normally a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio. But the fibrinogen beta chain of the fibrinogen monomers has the highest affinity to phosphorus. Of the three monomers we identified there, it has the highest affinity to phosphorus. And we did the calculations, we had to use AI to do it. We found the phosphorus affinities of the first 21, and this is the descending order that it appears according to classical chemistry or biochemistry. So I tell you all this because in here you'll also see the actin I talked about at 2.6%. That's a massive amount of actin in a normal red blood clot. It doesn't occur that high. You might get it up to 2% if you're lucky. But even then, it's got to be massive damage of the muscular layer behind the endothelial layer. And I talked to you all about the other adhesive integrins there, of course, vitronectin I talked about, phosphoryl factor. You've got the other thing that's quite interesting, the myeloperoxidase. Where's that?
It's under the blue one, under the blue.
It's sort of in the middle.
This one here. Now, this one's fascinating because that is signifying the NETs presence. Okay, the activity of the NETs. You've heard of NETs, of course. You can explain that to the audience if you like.
Yeah, come on.
Well, no, but neutrophil extracellular trap.
Thank you.
But the reason I asked you that, Greg, is Michael, working out why these. See, you're taught coagulation pathways in medical school.
Yeah.
What we were dealing with, looking at, we weren't taught about in the textbooks. You don't get these sort of ratios in clots. And this is why you needed an organic polymer chemist and people who are not in the standard thinking to actually understand why these things are happening. And because it came along chemistry principles rather than biochemical principles. So while everyone's stuck in the biochemistry they learned in university or med school, it's not helping them unravel what this new illness is. So this is why it's such a treat to have Greg on and explain what they were finding on these tests of the clots. That was
cool. Michael, could you just get out to the next slide, please, which I think is the amino acid. Yeah, there we are. That's the amino acid analysis we got. This was performed by the Keyjol method to determine the amino acids present. And Keyjol is a known way of determining what amino acids. Now, the amino acids, as I explained earlier, are the building blocks of the fibrinogen and all those proteins you just saw above. But have a look at what is the most abundant. Again, this is the descending order of concentration. Look at the amount of proline that's there. Shouldn't be there. Very, very simple. And as we said, the literature is abundant talking about how proline in excess is certainly a kinker. So everything is pointing that we've done to misfolded amyloid. I don't know if you want to continue down, Michael. You'll see some examples of the 5T tests we did. Just keep on flicking down to get some bright green images. You might find them. Oh, sorry. On your way back, these are papers. Just go back a bit. Sorry, Michael, if I may. Just go back up. Next one. Up. Yeah. Next one up. Yeah. This one.
This one.
Yeah. Amyloidogenesis of SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. Yeah. All in the literature. I mean, this is not rocket science. And if Michael just slowly scrolls through a couple more papers further down, it is so well known. The sequence of spike S2 enables cleavage by furin and phosphoregulation. We talk about the abundant amount of phosphorus we found. And it's not in MERS or SARS-1, another peer-reviewed paper. One more time, keep going down, Michael, one more, please. That's the spike protein, right? And we were talking about the difference of why this spike protein is not found on any other coronavirus. And I'll say it now, it's because it's been engineered.
Yeah.
And the prevalence of spike 689, by the way, the one spike that Nystrom and Hammerstrom identified is not in, by the way, just quietly, any of the other spike sequences in any of the SARS or MERS virus. So it's just magically turned up too. So many coincidences just turned up in SARS.
It's really interesting to hear you say that, that it's been engineered. You want to say that because the first time I heard anyone say that it's been engineered was that the Frenchman who identified or isolated the AIDS virus. And he said that. I remember watching him saying, I don't need any more money. I don't need any more accolades. And basically, I'm telling you, I'm risking everything. This has been engineered. And he concurred with some Indian university that had also first come to that conclusion. Then the Indians all had to apologize. And
that was
died.
That paper on the HIV segments. They found a number of HIV segments, V1, get it right, V4, V5, and VGAG. These segments that Pradhan et al. Found, that paper was forcibly retracted. They were pilloried and howled down, and
Yeah.
some 2 years later, the paper was reinstated because they did fight and were able to prove there wasn't an error in that paper at all. They had found HIV segments.
Yes, it was one of that and the furin cleavage, the discovery of the furin cleavage site on, that in 2020 made it pretty clear to me that it was a lab origin. And you made the point that furin site was the thing that made it different from the bat viruses that allowed it to infect humans and other species so easily. And just if you want to stretch the incredulity even higher, it sits within a 19 nucleotide segment, which is patented by Moderna, I think, in 2016. And there's papers on that too. So and you can argue whether it's 1 in 3 trillion or 1 in 250,000 or just what variant of impossible it is. But when you get too many impossible things, it's very dense coincidence.
Too many coincidences, Paul. You're quite right, and you're precisely describing what happened back then. And the appearance of the furin insert, it also has what they call CGG rare codons in there. Now, the rare codons actually help optimize the furin's activity specific to ACT2 in humans. And Ralph Barrick did papers on using that particular codon combination, precisely describing this activity. So you've not only got the furin insert turn up, you've got the CGG codons in there as well, and normally used in splicing. So anyway,
yeah, all the different vaccine manufacturers all made spike protein, but they use slightly different codon all had different codon optimization, but somehow they all miraculously had these palindromic sections that make them CRISPR make them useful as CRISPR anchor points. So I don't know. That's. I predicted that they were going to start coming out with CRISPR-based, treatments.
It's heady stuff. It's really heady stuff, and I think we should skip down a bit further, can Michael, if time allows. I just want to show you. Yeah, I'll just go back to that paper. That's a good one. I'll just back up again. Keep going.
Oh, Cossetti.
Up. Now you're going down, I think, eh?
37, 36, 35, 34, 33.
Yeah, this one. Sorry, go back again.
Go back on what?
Back down.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
This one. No.
That's 32.
One more. Yeah, there it is, that one. SARS-CoV-2 infection triggers phosphorylation. Why do we find a heap of phosphorus in our ICP analysis? I mean, the literature is abundant. It's amazing if you just go and do simple literature searches. We're very lucky. We do use AI very carefully and selectively, and it does make mistakes. And I've got to apologise to me a number of times because I've been able to prove it wrong. But to go and find papers is exemplary. It really can find papers you don't even know exist. And yes, you check whether they're peer-reviewed, and you check whether it's Frontiers or Elsevier or whether it's Nature or Science or what the eminence of the papers are. But it's all there.
Frontiers in immunology are well-known conspiracy theorists.
The other thing, though, Greg, is we are surrounded by the truth. The truth is everywhere. People just don't want to see it. You know, the
That's
evidence has
correct,
been
Mike.
around for a
Everyone's turning a
long
blind eye to it.
Yeah, you don't need
This
to
is why,
that's all these people I've interviewed. I mean, I remember I interviewed a guy who was on the spectrum, and he collected trolleys in Hobart, and he could see through it. He said it's all a scam. So this he didn't need a PhD. He can see it. Then we reach people like you, and there's Paul, and there's well, it's everywhere. It's nothing to do with your intelligence. I think it's with your courage to actually want to see the truth and
yeah.
your level of fear or whatever. It's got nothing to do. That's a really strange thing. I don't get it. I don't get my head around it. You know what I mean? It's the
It's
fact that
taken
they
us a
just don't
while
want to
too,
see.
actually. Yeah.
So the fact that all the papers are here doesn't
Mm.
surprise me at all. I can't believe we don't have a postcard, a meme from Fauci saying, "I wanted to kill you all," and and they go, "Yeah, he's such a nice guy," you know. So
Yeah. If you keep
yeah.
flicking down, you'll see a few more of these papers. That's just a smattering of what we came across. Regulation of SV40, replication by phosphorylation.
I think the best guy to interview would be the patent clerk because they come in with these patents and go, "Oh, we've got a 5G network, it's going to zombify the world, and we press a button, we can
This
kill
is
anyone." The guy goes like
VINA. Sorry,
$25,
VINA is the most important one.
you know.
This paper here, oops, if you go back up again, you just missed it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. That's an Istron paper. That's the one that's got the spike sequences, the waltz sequences I talk about, clearly defined, clearly analyzed, peer-reviewed, graded with from most amyloidogenic to less amyloidogenic. Also giving examples, photographic examples, microphotographs of the actual structures that each of the different spike protein perform in vitro. It's a great paper. And again, no one's ever heard of it.
Yeah, there was a paper that mentioned cross amyloid cross-seeding, one or two away from.
Yeah, it's the cross-seeding is mentioned in another paper they did as well. But
Look at the bottom of the introduction. Can I just read that? Amyloids and viruses are each notorious for their detrimental effects on human health. There are also many ways in which crosstalk between these two diseases causing entities resulting in the increased risk of harm to the host. Several neurodegenerative diseases are intimately related to misfolding and amyloid formation of endogenous. How do you say that word?
Endogenously expressed protein.
Yeah.
That's from within, endogenous, not from outside.
That's right.
So, what's the difference between an amyloid protein that's say misbent, whatever your word is, and a prion, misfolded, and a prion? Are they totally different, or they?
No, they're both involved misfolding, but misfolding protein isn't a prion. A prion has an extra element to it where it actually encourages other proteins to misfold. So it's almost like an infectious misfolding, but it's not an infection. That's why they fought.
It's like dominoes in a way.
They thought of Scrapie because it sort of behaved like something that was infectious, but it wasn't infectious in the way that we have understood infection. And one of the features was that, with Jakob Creutzfeldt, you could do the surgery on someone, you didn't know they had it. You could put all the instruments from the brain surgery into the autoclave and cook it and use it on the next patient. And it's all meant to be sterile, but then they get transmission of these prions. So they're very hard to. They've got these features which are different, very different in that, and they misfold based on their images, isn't that right, Greg? That it's energetically favorable thing for the proteins to form these shapes, but once they misfold, they're not recognizable by the normal pathways we might use to dissolve them, which is what Greg was talking about before. with the normal. And of course, all this is very important because if it's happening and we believe it is, we need to know how to treat it and how to stop it progressing. And this is why it just boggles the mind that so few actually.
That's insane. We say that all the time. It's insane that this is not being talked about. This should be on 60 Minutes or some other, or even Carl Stefanovic or any of this other. You hear with a dodgy old man in a bus. I mean, you want me to keep going? I find this maddening. It's. Do you want me to keep going with these?
Yeah, the guy to talk to on scrapy prions is Dr. Kevin McCann, because he understands clearly what a prion is by true definition and how different what this is compared to a prion. So we don't push the fact it's amyloid prionic like, because we can't see any evidence at all it's purely prionic, okay? And we're staying away from that because it's outside our capability and understanding.
Yeah, that's cool.
But McCann does understand it, and he has a deeper insight into it based on all the work he's done, specifically around the amyloid microclots that he's literally dragging out of so many patients. But importantly, Rhys Pretorius has done excellent work talking about the fibrinoid, she calls them, because again, she's pushing the point they're not quite fully formed amyloid. So it's a difficult area, but the point is simple chemistry, and I say simple, but easy to do chemistry to confirm whether it's there or whether it's not. And that's all we want the authorities to do, is just have a look at these things. And as I said, please prove us wrong. I hope we are wrong. But the evidence we've compiled so far, including the current Raymond and the next lot we'll be doing, is really frightening.
Plus, we have the clots. It's not like you have scientific papers with theories.
We
have clots. You've got one there. Richard Hirschman has some load. John O'Leary has some load.
That's out of the plasma. That's out of centrifuge plasma. Sure, it's come out of blood, but anyway, we'll find out more.
It shouldn't be. You don't have to be. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that calamari shouldn't be in our blood. I mean, it's just.
That's not a clot. That's something else.
No.
And, it's really disturbing. I think it should be a massively higher priority, because what I did, it took me a while to grok that all these things that can affect the circulation could be responsible for so many of the, if not all, the symptoms that the vaccine injured are getting, and the people who were complaining getting long COVID symptoms. So it could be at the very heart of treating both the post-vaccine
You're right.
problems.
Long COVID. Exactly correct, Paul. Long COVID is symptomatic of the fibrinoid amyloid microclots in early formation stage. And I'd just like to go back to a statement you made, Paul, about the different types of clots. We've had people talk about the heparin white clot outbreak, which did occur back in 88 to about 91. And heparin was related to a rubbery type clot, but the clot was never properly analysed. They didn't do an ICP on it or whatever. But they changed the formulation away from a high molecular weight heparin to a lower molecular weight, and the problem seemed to go away. There's only, I think, about 20 people were written up in peer-reviewed papers having white clots. They weren't described amyloid. But having said that, we've had other scientists say, they're chicken fat clots. They're not. Chicken fat clots don't glow green under thioflavin T testing. They are a jumble of proteins. They're not classically misfolding proteins. And they're certainly not misfolding towards amyloid 1 and 3 in the amyloid structure that we've identified. So I make that point very clearly. I hear so many people say, they're chicken fat clots. Richard Hirschman and the other embalmers are all very familiar with what a chicken fat clot looks like.
Yeah, we talked about
him. And they're a jumble of non-amyloid proteins. They're a mess. They're a conglomeration. But you put thioflavin T on them, they're not going to glow bright green. They might go very slightly green, but they won't be a bright fluorescent green like we've been getting consistently. So I just want to put that out there too, because I'm sick of the chicken fat clot stuff. Do the analysis, guys. Don't tell us what you think they are. Go away, get a sample, and say, I've analysed chicken fat clots. Here we have. I've got the AMY1 and 3 in that. I've got the thioflavin T. You're wrong, Greg. Knock yourselves out, guys.
I'd like to thank you for not actually coming up. It's because you do these shows, and I think people are frightened that we're going to make huge statements that we don't know anything about. I said to Paul before you bring on, let's just hear what he has to say. And I love the fact that you're just telling us what you found. You're saying, this is what we have so far. I just want to show you the most terrifying thing that I find, because I use this, but look at this. This is a perfect thing. So I always used to love seeing these growing up. So here it is here. New frog acts like a kangaroo discovered in Peru. This is making mainstream news about a new frog that acts like a kangaroo, probably because it jumps, and that makes world news, right? And it looks like a frog, but that makes world news. We've never seen this stuff before. That's one thing we know. This is something, or it seems to be something new, and it's hardly anywhere. It's a rumor. Even podcasts like this don't generally touch it much. Marie Z touches it. I don't know if Hoody's touched it, but like you said, John Campbell won't touch it. I haven't seen it on Rogan, and yet they're pulling it out of almost 50% or 45% of bodies.
Yeah.
This is what Hirschman's claim. This is,
show something here.
and you have evidence. I mean, we have hard evidence. It's not theoretical. It's hard evidence. I don't understand why this is almost like below COVID, below the Wuhan, below all this. This is like the secret of secrets. And as Paul says, it could be the foundation of all the problems. I mean, long COVID is just the politically correct way of saying you've got a vaccine injury. You get away with saying, I've got long COVID. No, you're not. You're injured by the vaccine. And,
I'll just let you. The trouble is, mainstream media is suppressing this, and we've got a classic example. Tom Havlin paid to go and attend a Tucker Carlson presentation, and at the end of it, he actually walked up to Tucker Carlson, and I've got photos to prove this, and he gave Tucker Carlson 2 samples of Richard Hirschman's white clots. Tucker Carlson. Wow. He said, are these the embalmer's clots? He actually said it to Tom. Are these the embalmer's clots? Tom said, yeah, they are. Oh, wow. He put them in his pocket. I got photos of Tom handing them to him, because Tom sent me the photos. So Laura was there as well, offsider. And we've got those photos. And not a word's been said by Tucker Carlson. Now, and I'm not disparaging the people. Yes. Megan Kelly, I know, will not return Tom Havlin's calls, although he's a message for her too. The mainstream media doesn't want to know about this. And that's part of the problem. It's real.
Well, it's not as big as newsworthy as that frog that acts like a kangaroo, to be honest.
That's why we're talking to you. I mean, and people like yourselves who are generally interested and who are not conflicted or governed by the other authority.
Plus, they're very busy helping promote the vaccination of penguins against getting a cold.
I get bird flu. That's insane.
We're not worried about producing or potentially producing gene therapy hesitancy.
It's scary stuff, guys.
Well, look, they're putting the mRNA in the flu shot. There is so much money behind mRNA. There's so much, it's almost like they're looking to build almost the world economy and just keeping sick people sick. I mean, there's just so much money to talk about here. But I don't know what it is. I'm not guessing. There's people saying, we've had doctors on that after the show finishes going, they think they're looking at alien technology. And these are guys that don't make outrageous claims, but they won't say it on live, but they're saying they haven't seen this stuff. So we live in this really peculiar world where really odd things are happening. and we're just trying to make sense of it. It's really fantastic. I'm so glad you came on.
Well,
No,
thank you.
and everyone's with us because we're just trying to understand. It's like having, yeah, an explorer on who goes, look, I've sailed into this madness, and so far this is what I found, but I can't give you any more than that. And I think that's a really responsible way to do it. You know?
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah.
I've got to see
No,
in the
straight up, man.
band.
I think you're doing God's
Yes.
work.
Yeah.
It's Chris.
Paul, I've admired Paul's work over the years. I've been following Paul, and this gentlemen like you guys that try and get the message out there to at least try and wake up the public. I mean, if we can't get the authorities to listen to us and to do the work that's got to be done, then we win it from the ground up. And that's, again, Richard Hirschman's statement. We must win this from the ground up by alerting the populations, be aware of what has happened. More importantly, look at symptoms and try and understand what we think may be going on. But more importantly, also understand how the authorities are ignoring it. And I believe it's deliberate because there's too much money involved. There's too many interests that can be damaged by this. And you only got to see Fauci at the moment and how the cabal is gathering around him to support him and all this nonsense to support the narrative. Because they can't afford the narrative to be brought down. That's what it's all about. And, to leave it there, if I may, gentlemen. I think I've rabbited on.
No worries. No, thank you. I want to really thank you for coming on. Really wonderful. Yeah, really wonderful.
Nice. Look, it was great to touch. Like we've followed each other for several years now on X. So it's great to finally talk with you, Greg, and see a real person. and you know, this story isn't going away. I would like it to be.
Until the clocks go away, Paul's not going to go away. It's simple as that. I mean, I'm just doing this as a hobby, only because I'm retired now and I don't play golf and whatever. But I am interested after about 3 odd years now of investigating this. And while the embalmers are still pulling these out, and I've got them still, John O'Looney and Laura Jeffries and Richard and others talking to me about it, so I'm still pulling these out. We'll go as far as we can go with the limited resource we've got. But we're doing this off our own dime. We've got no funding whatsoever. This is coming out of our pockets. And these analyses, you gentlemen, are not cheap.
No, sorry to say that. Yeah, look, it's all of us as podcasters. Literally, everyone is scraping by, and we're up against trillion-dollar organizations. You put Big Pharma all together. That's what we're up against. Talk about the underdogs. I mean, this is, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if this gets taken off Facebook tomorrow and YouTube bans me and all this shit happens.
Yeah. That's how we know it's really good.
That's right.
It is, yeah. I got a 10-year Facebook ban.
Dr. Campbell won't talk about, you know, you're over the target.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, I'll say good night. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Michael.
Yeah, no worries, man. Take care. Thank you so much.
Good to see you soon. Have you come back? Man. Have you come back and we'll get the slides working?
Yeah. Take care, Richard.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Bye.
Yowzers.
Wow.
How do you feel after that?
Yeah, there's such institutional blindness. And I think that's causing a huge amount of pathology and suffering. So we have to get our heads around it, and there have to be people that are cleverer than us who have also have better tools.
Dialysis help clear the blood clots. We don't know.
Well, what Kevin McCann's doing in Japan is this dual absorption, dual filtration plasmapheresis. So it's like dialysis, but it's not actually dialysis. It's because the idea is to filter out all the sludge, all the immune complexes, and all these immune mediators, which is being triggered and causing people to be sick. By clearing it from the blood, it's more like a filter. Dialysis is a sort of filtration, but this is more a more specific type of filtration to get rid of the the sludge, if you like, to get rid of the fibrils and the small clots and all the immune complexes and this inflammatory sludge, which is, and you could see how Nurse Lindsay, after she had a treatment, suddenly her POTS symptoms went away, and she was running bases on a baseball.
Yeah, I saw. I've been watching her. Yeah, she'll be coming on apparently when she gets back to America. I'm going to reach out to Kevin.
This is the sort of thing that can happen if you actually understand what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's so it is invasive and it is expensive. So it's not going to.
Great comment, Ben.
Yeah, trust the science. Yeah, they don't want to read
because they didn't want to actually read the abundant published science. Yeah.
Yeah.
Extraordinary. I mean, it's just extraordinary. It doesn't make sense. Look, I've got 2,855 days left.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Well, we're chipping away. That's
chipping away.
That's real.
What's 3,649?
Yeah. Wow.
There we go.
Wow, we're making real progress. We'll have those. We'll have really proper AI cat videos ready to go.
And all our Facebook pages or mine, I want to change Michael Gray Griffith and use Cafe Lockdowns because you've got severe restrictions. My page got severe restrictions. TikTok, severe restrictions. YouTube, they're constantly getting it back. It's a very nice thing. We had to put this video down. And so I'm waiting for that to go.
It's probably a sign. It's to me, it's always been a sign that you're probably doing something right. I remember in 2021, I posted a World Health Organization tweet which said vaccine immunity is more effective than natural immunity, and I called that out as bullshit, and no one ever saw that tweet. It was like there was one view. I think it was me. So unfortunately, being censored is actually sometimes a sign that you're over the target. And
And
I feel Greg and his team are. And he mentioned drastic, and there were some really great people. We could talk to Charles Rixey. He's also part of the Japanese team. Charles Rixey. And he was also part of Drastic, and he was one of the whistleblowers who said, "Hang on, this is." So some of us have known what has now been revealed by the Fauci diaries for years now, and people are finally catching up. But
how do you feel when you see the Fauci diaries? When you see these things that you've been saying for so long and you've just been ignored?
I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted and furious. I mean, especially like when he got a communication that it crosses the placenta, it causes inflammation in the amniotic fluid of the babies. So if you understand nanoparticles, you could understand that it's not going to stop at the placenta. It's not going to stop at the baby. So there's a real problem giving it to pregnant women. If you haven't studied it, there's a real danger. And yet they did. They went ahead and they pushed this, and they're still pushing it on pregnant women in Australia. So it needs.
God.
So the evidence is there, but the insights haven't happened. That's the problem. That public health is like a secular religion that doesn't seem to be able to update its thinking and its opinions with new data, and that's why
I guess it's whether it affects the bottom line. That's all they're thinking.
Yeah, because they're vaccine companies.
That's right.
The CDC has become a vaccine company. TGA is becoming a vaccine company, NIH. So we have these institutions need to be rebuilt from the ground up, and
You have to
And
have something that's not just about making money, you know.
oh yeah,
There's
the motive. It would be nice to have a motivation to actually improve
What a
health.
question, Adam. Look at this question from Adam Llewellyn. G'day, Adam. Does anyone here not know anyone who's not dying? Does anyone know anyone who's not dying from cancer? Everyone I know knows someone who's dying from cancer, you know? Yeah.
So we will
Yeah,
keep.
you're right, Anne.
So
Good
we
for
will
you.
keep.
Good to see your face, Anne. You finally got your face out there. Looks great. Good on you. Doctor, anyone has a thing to Luke McClendon? We've been trying to reach him. He's not on X. He's not on there. We got to where he used to work, but that didn't work. So we'd love to have him on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's in a new industry now. We just have to track down.
Sorry, Nick.
We have to just track
Yeah.
down his new job. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, let's have a quick laugh. This is my I did well today with this. This did well.
But it's safe and effective! No! Just hold still! Stay back!
I love that it's called HMS consent. That's AI did that, not me. So yeah, someone's got a sense of humor. So there's yeah. Wow. Anyway, we've got Pierre Corey coming on. He's going to tell us about his win in thing. So to any of the doctors watching, hopefully we'll get the audio fixed this time, but it'd be great to have him on. We've reached out to Aaron Series to see if we can get him on. But I think we should do more on this because no one's talking about this, and this is really, really big, you know. And yeah.
I think it's really important. I don't understand why the health department isn't going out to mortuaries and getting specimens or at least
yeah. One early 40s friend and 2 young sons, female lung cancer. Another friend, female's blood cancer. Oh, I'm sorry, Jules. Yeah, this is where we're at. Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to share before we toddle off?
No, I think we covered a lot of ground, and I'm going to spare people.
Actually, I will give you one more laugh, guys, before we go on, because we're going to need a laugh tomorrow. Now, as you know, in case you don't know, we're going to be a bit rude tomorrow because they're making a new film of Joan of Arc, right? Now, and she's going to be black. She's been played by a black person because we all know that Joan of Arc was black. And so Snow White was black, and I think Helena Troy was black. So we've just been culturally appropriated, and it's like we're not allowed to say anything. Well, we're going to do the opposite tomorrow on the quiz show. We're going to have some fun and fight back with humor. So this is going to be our version of the film Martin Luther King.
I had a dream.
Played by Marjorie Williams, who's a trans man.
I had a dream.
Yeah, good on you. And so we're going to have a lot of fun tomorrow, fighting back with humor. So the Chloe quiz show tomorrow, I'll be doing the thing tonight. And there's a few other things. There's one very, very funny thing from a robot in Norway that you really have to see to believe. Anyway, try to stay up, try to stay this. I'm just wondering what to go out on. I was going to play this, but it's much of a downer. I might do this one. I might do Welcome to Country, the Chloe version, and go out to that. Yeah, probably Jenny Dean. Probably. You know, well, who knows? Anyway, but I find it really insulting now. They're just rewriting our history, and it's
so obvious. It's so obvious. It's so gross. They should have Elbow played by a stapler.
Well, Robert, maybe maybe she's black because they're playing her as if she survived being burnt, and this is just her burnt version from there. That's why she's black. She's not really black. It's just.
It's nuts. It's nuts. It is nuts. It is nuts.
It is nuts. It's unacceptable. We just take it. It's like how they did the opening of the Olympics. They urinated on Christianity. It was a huge insult to every Christian. But us Christians are like, da, da, da. That's why I admire the Muslims. If they did that to Allah, the entire Olympic team, high Olympic organization would be gone. It's like, and it's not saying it's right, but they certainly don't take it as shit. You got to admire that. Anyway, Troy Anthony's got some new songs going on. So there's new things here. I'll just get these out now. We're doing stuff. More on the Blue Bees going up tomorrow. A piece about the Blue Bees and the evolution of the Blue Bees, because I think there's something really good there. Also, the Banned Book Company. We've got an ex-gangster coming on. He wants to be Dimitri, I think his name is. He wants to be in there, and he's been quite a heavy gangster, but not for a few years. So he's coming on. He's going to get his books into the book club and another thing. So there's stuff on the Banned Book Company, and the music is going up. So the Troy's music, my music is up. If you want to support the Clo, you can buy a song, $5 a song. It all goes to supporting the Clo. And Troy's songs are great. And actually, I might actually go out with his song because it's one of his. I really like Propaganda Man. And so get ready for a dance. And oh, where's he gone? And I haven't got that one done. Actually, no, oh, that one hasn't worked either. Where the hell are all these files? Bear with me. Let's go out. Since we've got the Oost on, we'll go out with oh, it's not there. Where is it? My lead to this. We'll go out here. His Propaganda Man. We'll go out Propaganda Man. We'll get it done. We're getting some videos done for Troy's music, and going for that Aussie fan channel. Yeah, reach out to us. cafelocked@gmail.com. Reach out to us, man. We like new songs. There's a culture happening, and that's why they're doing. That's why they're making these black people. Nothing against black people. That's why they got them doing iconic white roles, because they're trying to change the culture. Culture is downwind of politics, so they're trying to control the culture. So culturally, it's time for artists to fight back. So this is where we're going. So this is Troy.
Support culture with a K.
Yeah, that's right. Culture with a K. So yeah, and here they go. So this is Propaganda Man by Troy Bates or Troy Anthony, depending on which side of the Sovereign Citizen bed he woke up this morning. Sorry, Troy. See you guys. Wow, what a show. Take care, Paul. Bye. Propaganda Man. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Some come to cut, some come to mend. Same little road, same crooked bend. One hand clenched, one hand open wide. One leaves a scar, one walks beside. Who holds the knife? Do they lift you up? Do they fill your cup? Do they feel and the healers? We can choose our world, choose our wings of black or gold. Hard boots march through the market dust. Soft hands clean up what broke from trust. A mean word lands like a stone in the rain. A kind word loosens the lock from pain. Who takes? Do they give? Do they let love live? Do they feel right to forgive? Harmers and the healers, harmers and the healers, who burn the bridges, hip docks build our back. Harmers and the healers, harmers and the healers. We can choose our world, choose our wings of black or gold. healers, hip docs are the healers. Amps and 832 at the backs, bandage up the fever. Say, come as you are, standing in truth together makes the who quiver. Oh, harmers and the healers, harmers and the healers, who burn the bridges, hip docs help Aussies come back. Harmers and the healers, harmers and the healers, hip docs are the healers, united together in the Hippocratic oath. Good hands will win. Hey! Good hands will win.